If your nonprofit is looking to attract more donations or wants to build more awareness for a specific cause, but you might be limited on your marketing budget, Google Ad Grants is here for you. This program by Google can give nonprofits, if they meet certain eligibility requirements, up to $10,000 of free ad spend every single month. But with anything free comes a price. There are certain limitations or criteria components that you must meet in order to keep receiving this money. I'm going to show you in this week's video what those limitations are and what criteria you need to meet in order to keep getting the free ad spend. The first limitation with Google Ad Grants is that you can only use the search network. Let me show you. In Google Ads Editor, it appears that you could add other campaigns like display or video. And even if you fill out all the proper information, you add your ad groups, you have your targeting, you have your ads in place, when you try to post these campaigns, you will get an error and Google will not allow you to fill out this information. The same thing will apply if you are actually filling out the campaigns and setting it up within the Google Ads interface itself. Google will have you go through the entire process, but once you click to save, you are going to get an error message letting you know that it is not possible. So, Search Network is the only option we have, and Google clearly states your ads will be entirely text-based and all campaigns have to be keyword targeted, so no videos or no images. Now we know that our campaigns need to be search campaigns only. So while you're in the campaign settings and you're setting up your first campaigns in your ad grant accounts, that will lead us to our next limitation, which is you cannot exclude any IP addresses within a Google Ad Grants account. I typically filter out my location and my client's location in Google Ads, so that limitation gets under my skin a little bit, so that advertisers cannot block out the IPs. We talked about Google gives you $10,000 a month in free ad spend. Depending on the size of your nonprofit, you may not even use all of that amount, but if you have a bigger nonprofit and you want to try to limit that spend and only use it for the best users as possible, excluding out your IPs isn't an option. In this example, you can see I tried to paste in my IP address, save the campaign settings, but we get an error and I have to remove that IP address and resave it just to have that campaign updated. We have our campaign set up, we have our ad group set up, we're adding keywords into our campaigns, and that'll bring us to our next limitation in Google Ad Grants accounts, which is we can only hit a $2 maximum CPC. If your nonprofit is in a highly competitive space, you may not get the exact exposure you're expecting to achieve. In this particular campaign that we can see on the screen, I have my bids all set at the maximum of $2. But if we look at the status of each of these keywords, we can see every single one of them is below the first page bid amount. You still might get some impressions here and there, but looking at this particular month, I have no impressions at all. And if you think you can game the system, just even try to bump it up a penny to $2.01 and try to save it, we can see our bid is too large and we are stuck at that $2 minimum. It might seem unfair, but this is what happens when you're not paying Google for those clicks yourself. If you have a list of really important keywords to your nonprofit and you're not getting any exposure of them because of this max CPC limit, you are going to have to find some new budget to create a different non-Google Ad Grants account to even have exposure for these certain keywords. The fourth limitation with Google Ad Grants is that we cannot add audiences. Let me show you. If I want to add a remarketing audience to any of my Google Ad Grants campaigns, even though it is part of the search network and it is still targeting keywords, Google will also reject these audiences once you post them live. It's another example of they let you go through the process, but when you try to post it, the invalid error will pop up again. There we go. I have to edit these audiences. I have to pretty much delete them to have my grant accounts be able to post any of these campaigns live. I know I said earlier in this video that all of your campaigns and Google Ad Grants accounts must be keyword targeted search campaigns, and you may be thinking, well, I could still use RLSA or remarketing list for search ad campaigns, but obviously we cannot. We have to remove all audiences from our search campaigns if you want to run Google Ad Grant campaigns. Now, the last set of limitations I'm going to talk about is actually a big grouping. Back in January of 2018, Google announced that there was going to be new criteria that would affect anyone running Google Ad Grant accounts. I have the list of all of these changes up in the video right now. I'm not going to go every single bullet point, but I'll give you an example from one of the clients I used to manage. They were a nonprofit that asked for donations or were looking for instruments to give to children with low-income housing or worked in music programs that needed help getting funded to just give instruments to kids. Originally, their ad grants account were targeting very broad terms, just like music. And if you look at the purpose of what the nonprofit is, they're looking to collect instruments. It's a very specific goal, and that was part of Google's criteria. For the most part, single word keywords are not allowed in Google Ad Grants account unless that single word keyword is pretty much exactly what your nonprofit does. If it's in line with your mission or if it's your own brand name, that is acceptable. But any other single keyword is not allowed in the accounts. So in this particular example of the client I used to manage, they were looking to collect instruments or collect donations to buy instruments to give to children. Just targeting a really broad word like music was not acceptable anymore because music can be attached to a ton of other different things. It was not in line with the mission of the nonprofit, so we had to remove those keywords from the account. You cannot pause them. They have to be straight up deleted and removed from the account. If you do not agree to this policy, your account can actually be discontinued. Other criteria were added within this announcement. Your keywords with a quality score lower than 2 are also not allowed. You also must maintain a 5% click-through rate account-wide. So if you miss this level for 2 months in a row, your account can also be suspended. I've seen these changes pretty much directly affect the max CPC limits I've talked about earlier in this presentation. The more specific our keywords get, the higher the CPC typically goes. I have recently seen a few of my Google Ad Grant accounts traffic really dip because we can't bid high enough to bid on the specific keywords that are really in line with the nonprofit mission. Now that you know the limitations, it's still worth going to try to apply for a Google Ad Grants account if your nonprofit is eligible. Just keep in mind you won't be able to run a full, robust paid campaign with search, display, remarketing, and video with the limitations that are in place. But even with these limitations, free ad spend is better than no free ad spend. For more information about Google Ad Grants eligibility requirements, you can check out the link in the description of the video.
Thanks for watching our video.
Make sure to subscribe to the Paid Media Pros channel to see more videos.